A surprising number of people listening to this right now will eventually pass away and just leave behind a massive financial and emotional disaster for their families.
Yeah, it's a deeply uncomfortable truth to face.
It really is.
Hmm.
And I mean, it is not because you don't care about your money or your kids or your data or, even your pets.
Right, absolutely not.
It is entirely because fixing this problem, like building a real comprehensive estate plan, carries this agonizing emotional toll and honestly an overwhelmingly high price tag.
Oh, the price tag is staggering. For a family with any real complexity, a good lawyer who does this well is going to charge somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000.
Which is just inaccessible for most people.
Exactly. And the truly frustrating part about that massive bill is that the majority of those billable hours are not spent doing complex legal drafting.
They aren't.
No, not at all. The expensive part of the process is really simply the attorney sitting across a mahogany desk from you, asking careful questions, issue spotting your life, and taking notes.
Just doing intake, basically.
Exactly. And that friction is why so many people just avoid it entirely. I mean, they leave behind a will from 2011 that still names an ex-partner, or they leave, handwritten notes that a grieving spouse cannot legally execute.
Or they just leave nothing at all, which forces a random county court to decide their family's fate.
Right, which is the absolute worst case scenario.
Which brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at this fascinating April 2026 article by Jeffrey Emanuel. He details this new system he built called the AI Skill for Wills and Estate Planning.
It is a really incredible piece of work.
It is. So over the course of this deep dive, we're going to explore how a completely non-technical person can use this AI tool over a single weekend to get top-tier, white shoe, law firm level estate planning for about $120.
Yeah, the scope of what Emmanuel has built here represents a massive paradigm shift.
$120 versus 15 grand is definitely a shift.
Right. But we have to understand that this system is not some generic web form where you just fill in the blanks. And it is definitely not a static PDF template you just download off the internet.
Okay, so what is it exactly?
It is a highly intricate, dynamic setup. The underlying architecture actually consists of 201 files, 17 specialized subagents, and 45 distinct templates.
Wow.
And the entire system automatically adjusts its depth based on who is sitting at a keyboard. It scales seamlessly, so it can handle a 26-year-old renter with a single 401k, all the way up to a $100 million industrialist who is mapping out like 4 generations of wealth transfer.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you are not a software programmer, hearing technical terms like subagents and AI skills might make it sound like you need a computer science degree just to leave your house to your kids.
Yeah, I can see how that sounds intimidating.
Right, but the source material stresses that you never actually type a command line. You never stare at a scary black terminal window.
No, not at all.
So if I'm trying to wrap my head around the difference between a standard web chatbot and this new agent and skill stack, it almost feels like hiring staff.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so the agent, like Claude Code or OpenAI's Codex, is essentially a highly intelligent but totally empty-handed apprentice. They have immense processing power, but they don't know anything about estate law natively.
Exactly.
And the skill that Emanuel built is like handing that brilliant apprentice a massive, specialized binder of domain expertise. It is filled with the checklists, the legal frameworks, and the standard interview questions that a top-tier firm uses.
Handing over that binder is the perfect way to visualize it. And the third piece of this puzzle is your working folder.
Okay, what goes in there?
This is the raw material. You just create a regular folder on your computer's desktop, and you drop in whatever financial detritus you have lying around.
Like literally just drag and drop.
Yep. PDFs of your 2024 tax returns, a recent 401k statement, your life insurance policy, a photo of your passport, or even just a messy text file listing your bank accounts. The magic happens because of how those 17 subagents work together. Think of them as a team of specialists in a room.
Okay.
While one subagent is actively chatting with you about your kids, another subagent is quietly speed reading your tax return in the background to see if your stated income matches reality.
That is wild.
And while that's happening, a third is checking your specific state's probate laws.
And getting that room of specialists set up is surprisingly straightforward, right? The text outlines a 20-minute, 4-step process.
Yeah, 20 minutes is all it takes.
So first, you get a subscription to a frontier AI model. That's either the Claude Max 5X tier or GPT Pro, which run about $100 a month.
Right.
Second, you download the free desktop app for that model. Third, you go to jeffries-skills.md and pay $20 a month for access to that specialized skill binder you mentioned.
Exactly.
And finally, you just paste an install prompt into the desktop app and point it at that messy folder of your PDFs. And importantly, the agent reads your local files directly on your machine.
That is a huge point for privacy.
Yeah, you just approve its actions in a chat box, which keeps your most sensitive financial data off remote servers. But let me push back here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
If I'm listening to this, I might be thinking, why go through this $120 subscription hassle, downloading apps and making folders, when I could just go online and buy a flat fee legal form bundle for $200? Those services have been around for over a decade.
That's a fair question, and the source actually tackles that direct cost comparison. Those flat fee templates serve a purpose, provided your life is incredibly simple.
Define simple.
Well, if you rent your apartment, have zero dependents, and your total worldly possessions consist of a checking account and a used car, sure, buy the $200 form.
Makes sense.
But the moment you introduce real-life complexity, a blended family, a stake in a private business, multi-state property, or even self-custodied cryptocurrency, those static templates completely break down.
Because they can't adapt.
Right. They are completely blind to the contradictions in your life. Emanuel's AI skill is explicitly engineered to mimic that $500 an hour human intake phase, where an attorney actively hunts for the unique complexities and contradictions in your actual circumstances.
But having all those documents sitting in a desktop folder doesn't mean anything until the AI actually starts putting the puzzle together.
Exactly. You have to initiate it.
Right. So once you type that first prompt, literally just saying, please use the wills and estate planning skill to help me draft an estate plan, it shifts into this conversational interview mode.
It's very low pressure.
Yeah. You just answer honestly. You can even tell it, I don't know, or I need to ask my spouse. It remembers the entire thread across multiple sessions, so you can just chip away at this over a weekend.
And while it's conducting that friendly interview, it is simultaneously running a background scan for anti-patterns.
Anti-patterns.
Yeah, these are the hidden landmines that routinely destroy well-intentioned estate plans. The examples highlighted in the text are terrifying, specifically because they are so common.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the system catches things a normal person would never even think to look for. Let's look at the stale beneficiary form.
Oh, this is a big one.
Right. So you might spend hours writing a pristine will that proudly states, I leave all my assets to my children. But the AI subagent scans your messy folder and notices an old ERISA 401k statement from 2009 that still names your ex-spouse as the primary beneficiary.
That specific scenario is a massive failure mode. To understand why, we have to look at the mechanism of probate versus non-probate assets.
Okay, break that down for us.
A will only controls assets that go through your local state probate court. But an ERISA 401k retirement plan is governed by federal law, which completely bypasses the state court.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The federal plan administrator has a strict legal duty to pay whoever is named on that specific beneficiary form, regardless of what your recently updated will says. Federal law overrides state probate law. So if the AI's beneficiary audit subagent doesn't flag that contradiction, your grieving children will literally watch hundreds of thousands of dollars legally transferred to your ex, and no state judge can stop it.
That is genuinely chilling, and it leads right into another massive trap, which is the blended family disaster.
Also extremely common.
I imagine a standard scenario is someone with kids from a first marriage who remarries. They just leave everything to their new spouse on an honor system, assuming the new spouse will eventually pass the remaining money down to those kids.
Yes.
But the AI actively intervenes when it hears that, right?
It intervenes because the honor system is the #1 way children get accidentally disinherited.
Oh, really?
The #1 way? Absolutely. Because if you leave your assets to your current spouse outright, those assets become completely theirs. 10 years later, that spouse could just rewrite their own will, leaving everything to a new partner or their own children.
And your kids get nothing.
Your kids end up with nothing. So the AI catches this structural flaw and suggests implementing a QTIP trust. That's a qualified terminable interest property trust.
Okay, what does that actually do?
Think of a QTIP trust like a financial lockbox. The AI sets it up so your surviving spouse is given a key to the interest or the income generated by the assets, ensuring they're financially supported for the rest of their life.
Okay, that sounds fair.
But the actual principal inside the lockbox is legally walled off and reserved for your children when that spouse passes away. It separates income from principal to protect everyone.
That is so smart, and it even looks out for your pets.
Yes, the pet trust feature is fantastic.
The text notes that parrots, for example, can live for 50 to 100 years. So if you are 40 years old and draft a plan that ignores your parrot, the bird is mathematically going to outlive you.
It's a biological certainty.
Yeah, and without a plan, it ends up in a county animal shelter. But the AI spots this reality and actively drafts a pet trust, ensuring a named caretaker is paired with a funded trustee to cover the animal's expenses.
And it applies that same forward-thinking logic to modern digital risks, too, like cryptocurrency.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
Yeah, a user might try to pass on their Bitcoin by writing their crypto seed phrase directly into their will. The anti-pattern scanner subagent will outright block that action.
Because wills become public.
Exactly. It explains the mechanics of probate to you. The moment a will is filed in court, it becomes a matter of public record. If your 12-word seed phrase is in that document, automated bots that scrape court records will drain your crypto wallet before your family even drives home from the courthouse.
That is just awful to think about. The way it categorizes and protects you is so dynamic. The article details how it sorts users into 5 wealth tiers.
Right, 1 through 5.
Yeah, Tier 1 is a modest renter. Tier 2 is middle class with a home and kids, scaling all the way up to Tier 5 for ultra-high net worth industrialists. But the system doesn't just passively accept your tier, right?
No, it is constantly evaluating.
It actively bumps you up if it detects a complexity overlay. I imagine a major trigger for a tier bump would be something like a non-citizen spouse.
Yeah.
Because the tax implications there are vastly different than a standard domestic marriage.
Oh, they are incredibly different. What's fascinating here is how the AI catches this. Under U.S. law, you can pass an unlimited amount of property to a U.S. citizen spouse completely tax-free.
Okay.
But the moment the AI notices your spouse is not a citizen, that unlimited marital deduction just vanishes, and it's replaced by a much lower threshold, often around $60,000, depending on the year.
Wait, only 60 grand?
Yeah. So if the AI doesn't bump your complexity tier up and implement a QDOT, which is a qualified domestic trust, your surviving non-citizen spouse could face a devastating 6-figure tax shock just to inherit the family home.
That would bankrupt people.
Easily. The QDOT mechanism defers those estate taxes so the spouse isn't impoverished by the IRS the moment you die.
Another overlay that fascinated me was the vulnerable heir.
Yes, this is a deeply emotional issue for families.
Yeah. If the AI learns during the conversational interview that an adult child is in addiction recovery, it immediately flags that handing them an outright lump sum inheritance of, say, $400,000 could literally be a fatal event.
It absolutely could be.
So it automatically bumps the complexity up and prompts the user to create an incentive trust. This puts a responsible trustee in charge of distributing funds conditionally, preserving the money, and protecting the heir's life.
Exactly.
I mean, it is performing the exact emotional and strategic labor you'd expect from a seasoned human professional.
It really is. And once it has mapped all these complexities, resolved the contradictions, and verified the legal frameworks, it begins generating the final output.
Right. Having survived the rigorous AI interview process, what the user actually walks away with is staggering. It creates a structured project directory containing roughly 45 highly organized files.
It's not just a single piece of paper.
No, not at all. You aren't just getting a single will document. You're getting an entire ecosystem for your estate, from the intake records to the final deliverables.
And there are 2 documents in the output that justify the entire process.
Because they solve the immediate crushing panic of the survivors, right?
Yes. The first is the If I Die Tomorrow document. It's literally a 1-page, first 48 hours guide for a grieving spouse or executor. It tells them exactly who to call, like the CPA or the life insurance contact, where the physical documents are located, and crucially, what not to do in a panic.
Like prematurely closing bank accounts, which people do all the time.
Exactly. The second vital output is the combination of the beneficiary map and the funding proof log.
Okay, why are those so important?
Well, you see, going through the trouble of signing a complex revocable trust document is entirely useless if you do not actively retitle your house or your brokerage accounts into the name of that trust.
Right.
An empty trust does nothing. The AI generates a tracking log to ensure that your trusts actually take legal ownership of the assets they're supposed to hold. It effectively closes the probate leak that ruins so many expensive estate plans.
But we have to clarify a critical boundary here, because I'm sure people are wondering. The AI is not a licensed law firm. It cannot formally sign, witness, or notarize your documents.
No, it cannot. And Emanuel is very transparent about this limitation in the source material. Instead of trying to act as your final lawyer, the AI generates an attorney engagement brief.
Which is for a human lawyer.
Yes, it is a concise 4-page memo built specifically for a human attorney. It summarizes your facts, your goals, the AI's recommendations, any open questions, and the specific state law nuances in play.
So if you choose to hire a human lawyer for the final review and notarization, you simply hand them this brief.
Yep.
You have essentially compressed that brutal $15,000 intake and discovery process down into a $2,000 to $4,000 90-minute sign-off meeting.
Because the lawyer is starting at drafting depth rather than starting from scratch.
Right. So what does this all mean for privacy and legal protection? If I am sitting at my kitchen table pouring my deepest family secrets into an AI desktop app, admitting that my son has a gambling problem or that I fundamentally do not trust my new son-in-law, is that information safe? Do I have attorney-client privilege with an artificial intelligence?
This raises an important question, and it is arguably the most crucial caveat in the entire source material.
Okay.
The short answer is absolutely not. Consumer chatbots are not attorneys. Emanuel highlights a recent New York case which explicitly held that discussing otherwise privileged legal matters with the consumer-grade AI can legally waive the attorney-client privilege you would have enjoyed had you spoken directly to a human lawyer.
Wow, really? Waives it entirely.
Yes. The mechanism here is that sharing information with a third-party software provider breaks the circle of confidentiality required for legal privilege.
No. So by oversharing with the AI to get a better estate plan, you might inadvertently expose that sensitive family information to future legal discovery.
That's the risk. Now, for a standard middle-class estate plan, this risk is minimal because you are generally not anticipating a vicious, multi-year court battle over the assets.
True.
But for ultra-high net worth individuals or anyone facing a potentially contested estate, for example, if you are deliberately disinheriting a child, this lack of privilege is highly dangerous.
Because they'll come looking for those files.
Exactly. The detailed intake record and decision ledger that the AI systematically builds is a litigation magnet. A lawyer contesting the will would love nothing more than to subpoena those AI logs to search for evidence of undue influence, confusion, or lack of mental capacity.
I would assume the simplest mitigation for that risk is just deleting the files once you're done. Or, as the text implies, using a human lawyer for the highest stakes scenarios.
Yeah, Emanuel offers clear guidance on navigating this. First, at the end of the planning session, the skill offers to permanently delete all intermediate work products and chat logs from your local working folder once you've saved the final draft.
Oh, that's convenient.
And as long as there's no pending litigation, destroying your own notes is perfectly legal and isn't considered spoliation of evidence. Alternatively, users can run the AI under a zero-retention enterprise plan.
Okay, good to know.
But his strongest advice is really reserved for bedside or deathbed drafting of a highly contested will. Use a human lawyer. The drafting attorney is the single most important future witness to verify the testator's mental capacity in front of a judge. An AI agent cannot take the stand and testify in court.
That makes perfect sense. It is a powerful organizational tool, not a human witness. Okay, to recap the core value proposition for you listening. Armed with just one weekend, roughly $120 in software subscription fees, and a messy folder of your scattered PDFs, you can clean up the dangerous hidden landmines in your life.
It's incredible ROI.
It really is. You can fix the unupdated 401ks that would accidentally enrich an ex-spouse. You can fund the empty trusts that would otherwise fail. And you can build protective barriers around vulnerable heirs. You walk away with a top-tier, white shoe-level estate package, plus a highly organized handoff brief for a human lawyer if you choose to use one.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what Emanuel has accomplished here is successfully separating evergreen methodology from volatile law.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the conceptual legal frameworks for estate planning, like trusts and wills, remain relatively stable over time. But the specific numerical thresholds are incredibly volatile. For instance, the 2026 OBBA tax exemption rules are a constantly shifting target based on congressional whims.
Right.
The AI skill handles this by logging live lookups of those shifting tax laws directly into an official source log within your final folder. You don't just get a document, you get a transparent, auditable record showing exactly what primary source rules were applied on the specific day you ran the skill.
And that separation of methodology from volatile data leads perfectly to a final thought I want to leave you with. Emanuel notes at the very end of his article that this AI setup is a pattern, not a product.
A pattern.
Exactly. He has already built a similar system for complex tax preparation. But think about your own life and that messy financial junk drawer we talked about at the beginning. What other expensive by default professions rely almost entirely on asking you careful questions, spotting issues in your answers, and filling out complex paperwork?
There are so many.
Right. Whether it's college financial aid optimization, divorce asset planning, or even medical bill auditing. How soon will a $20 AI skill replace the $500 an hour intake phase of that industry, too?